Doctors change lives every day, but what happens when life changes yours? A single injury, a sudden illness. Your career, your income, your future can shift in an instant. The best physicians don't just plan for success, they protect it. At Set for Life Insurance, they believe financial security isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. True own occupation disability insurance ensures that no matter what happens, your future stays in your hands. Because protecting your income means protecting everything you've built. Visit drpodcastnetwork.co/set4life today. Secure your future before life makes the choice for you. All right, welcome back to BS Free MD. Doctors Tim and May Hindmarsh. We have something I've really gone down the rabbit hole on over the last week, and I've become kind of obsessed with it. It has to do with the conflicts inside of the MAHA movement, specifically around Casey Means being named as potential Surgeon General of the United States.
And that's why this episode is a special us edition with, I guess, you're the guest. I'm the interviewer.
Yeah, I guess, because I have done, and there is opinions inside the medical freedom movement, like all over the freaking map on this. And hopefully we can bring some clarity. I want to talk about three things. I want to talk, four things really. Who are these people? What are the opinions of other folks inside the medical freedom world? What do we think? What's our take? Unlike some people, I'm going to actually give you my opinion on what I think. and then lastly, what do you do about it? I mean, as
nothing,
as an or something. I don't, is this our letter? Is this the time to write letters? Is this pitchforks? Is this, burning crosses on your lawn? Honestly, I think, there's a lot of gigantic fish to fry here. So let's get started. So Casey and Calley Means are siblings, brother and sister. Casey is a physician. She was trained at Stanford Medical School and did all but 6 months of an ear, nose, and throat residency at not Stanford, because if you listen to Tucker Carlson's interview with them, you would think that it was at Stanford, but it wasn't. It was at OHSU, Oregon Health Sciences University in Portland. So she got 4.5 years into this residency out of 5 years and quit. So the narrative or her story is she quit because she got burned out on North American medicine. They weren't looking at root causes and it was all bullshit. So she had to get out before she was done. Somehow that smells like a dirty diaper to me, because you were 6 months from being done. You could have actually been a, board eligible, finished residency, start working ENT person and still done this other stuff. Yeah. I think something else happened.
Quick
we'll get
side
into that.
Note, I call BS on when you're looking for the root cause, when you're that far into your specialty. I'm thinking you should have figured that out and done functional medicine earlier on. But anyway.
Well, yes, because you've already done it.
Of an ear infection is really compelling to make you quit ENT.
Yeah, no, plus it's a surgical specialty, for God's sake. This was not like she was doing nephrology or cardiology and seeing all of these, morbidly obese people.
Like Peter Attia, who also didn't.
Or as Jack Kruse calls him, Peter Attia, which I love.
Another doctor that gave up on his specialty.
Yeah, which is...
Maybe y'all don't know that, by the way.
Yeah. Well, he did. He gave up, whatever. So then there's Calley. So Casey is 37 years old. Calley is 39 years old. Calley went to Harvard. So these people are unbelievably pedigreed from the educational perspective. He worked as a lobbyist, believe it or not, for Coca-Cola and pharma.
Oh.
Okay.
The health food industry.
Right. And then he saw the light because his sister showed him how he was on the dark side and supporting all of these metabolically disastrous things, which can happen. Mm-hmm. Okay. Which can happen. But again, that's the story. And we're going to get back and forth into this Tucker Carlson interview from August of last year, where they just exploded onto the scenes. So then Casey wrote a book called Good Energy, and it was co-authored. He gets at least a subtitle. Calley gets this, a it's not a subreddit, but a sub, he wasn't really a co-author, but it was with him. Okay. So they write this book, Good Energy, and then they come onto the scene, exploding onto the scene after this Tucker Carlson interview. Okay. Meanwhile, I had been listening to some of RFK Jr.'s podcasts and I had heard them referred to, but I didn't know where they were because, and this is what the first point of contention in the medical freedom world, they were absolutely nowhere to be found during COVID, completely persona non grata. Now, Casey has kind of an excuse. She was doing a residency. But actually, she wasn't. She finished her residency. She was long out of residency before COVID. I forgot about that. So, but they were just, they're supposed to be these medical freedom warriors, blah, blah, blah. And then they were nowhere. They weren't talking about jab mandates. They weren't talking about masking. They weren't doing anything. But then all of a sudden, I believe it was August 24th of 2024, they're on Tucker Carlson and they are going to change the world. And they are the Mahaiest Mahas of all Mahas because they are going to change the food industry. It's all bullshit. Red dyes are killing us, et cetera, et cetera. Like no one has been saying food is bad. And no one has been saying that red dye number whatever is bad. I mean, this is not new things. These are all old things. I mean, Atkins goes back, 50 years, the Atkins diet? It is not new. It wasn't new 20 years ago. It was revamped from, and marketed really well. It's ancient. Dr. Salisbury of Salisbury steak fame talking about ultra low carb diets. That was 100 years ago. So they just blow up on the scene, okay? And so a lot of us in the medical freedom world are like, whoa, 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 what the hell, okay? We know where Peter McCullough came from. I know the first time I talked to him. I know the first time I emailed him. I know how early that was. That was in 2021. And he was very outspoken. Harvey Risch, same thing. Kelly Victory, same thing. Paul Alexander, who we interviewed a couple times, who's very, very vocal and outspoken about, especially the childhood masking and shutting down schools. All of these people were putting their careers on the line. These people were nowhere to be seen until August of 2024. So something just doesn't taste right in that regard. Okay, so then the proverbial you-know-what hits the fan when the original, I forget her name, Neuschweit or whatever, nominee for the Surgeon General got pulled because she kind of BS'd some of her educational pedigree, and they're like, she's never going to pass congressional muster because they're going to hang her up on essentially kind of BSing her credentials. So they pulled her, and they threw Casey in, okay, as kind of Casey, make America healthy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that happens, and this is all within the last 10 days or so. And then Nicole Shanahan, who was Bobby Kennedy's vice presidential running mate, who spent tens of millions, I would assume, minimum, on his campaign, comes out and says this. This was a tweet that she had. Yes, it is very strange. Doesn't make any sense. I was promised that if I supported RFK Jr. in his Senate confirmation, that neither of these siblings would be working under HHS or in an appointment. And that people much more qualified would be. I don't know if RFK very clearly lied to me or what is going on. It has been clear in recent conversations that he is reporting to someone regularly who is controlling his decisions, and it isn't President Trump. With regards to the siblings, there is something very artificial and aggressive about them, almost like they were bred and raised Manchurian assets. Very artificial and aggressive. That is about the best statement I can. When May and I first heard them, instantaneously we're like, none of this passes the smell test. This all absolutely stinks. We couldn't, it was almost spiritual. Like we couldn't really necessarily put a finger on it, but we like something about this just like just does not make any sense. Taking somebody who has never been an attending physician, has no medical license, which we bitched like crazy during COVID about Fauci not having a medical license, is going to be the freaking Surgeon General of the United States. Doesn't make any sense.
She has a license, just inactive status in Oregon.
Well, that's not a license. I have an inactive license in Oregon. I still can't write prescriptions there. So then things get really crazy, because what starts to happen after this, bombshell, especially Shanahan kind of pulled the pin on this thing, which is all sorts of people start weighing in. And as you can imagine, in a political movement, it is all over the map. Okay, so enter Naomi Wolf. So Naomi Wolf was on our show graciously, and she has done absolute yo man's or yo woman's work. I don't know if there's such a thing, but on uncovering the Pfizer documents and compiling the research of thousands of researchers that she had volunteer for her for the book, The Pfizer Papers. So she came out, and she has been a tech entrepreneur, I think, more than once. And so she's very familiar with how Silicon Valley works, about how money is invested in Silicon Valley. And she is like, these people are plants. They're Silicon Valley plants to send info and intel and protect the interests, the financial interests of, as Naomi calls them, the broligarchs.
Yeah, are you going to talk in detail about her Substack article?
No, her Substack article, was it called The Invisible Casey Means?
Let me just get up here. The imaginary Casey Means.
Excellent article. Naomi is a spectacularly great writer, and this is a great Substack. I think May has a quote from there, if we can.
Yeah, well, you need to. There's a lot of info and backstory on Silicon Valley tech, all the people involved in that, the whole, referencing back to Elon Musk and Doge and
Mark
Neuralink
Andreessen and
all these
these
Silicon guys, people that have interests in mining your data, not just your email, but everything from your health data through, the Oura Ring data, continuous glucose monitors, collecting your health info. And are you going to get into their companies? Basically,
let's do that now. Let's segue into that. So this
article references the backstory about a lot of these founders and all of these companies that are interested in collecting your data, not just your email, is all health information. And this is all from Silicon Valley. And it kind of goes into the backstory of how they've infiltrated the Trump administration and have now taken advantage of supporting him so that they can get access to the government and have influence.
Yeah. So
enter in. Yeah. Go ahead with the rule. Okay. The means
so then, like I said, Calley was a lobbyist. Okay, which is fine. You're allowed to be a lobbyist. It's not against the law. But he has a company called TrueMed. And what TrueMed does is TrueMed basically writes medical, like doctor's notes for you so that you can use HSA money to buy Pelotons and whatever. And I looked at his site and I was like, this is, in my opinion, this is legal fraud, because they have physicians that sign these notes that have licenses. And then they're clearly partnered, is how they put it. In other words, they're affiliates of Peloton and, various fitness things, cold plunge tanks, all sorts of stuff. And of course, their supplements that they're selling.
And he also had an app. So I think it's off of there now, according to Naomi, a mental health tracking app for that and for sleep tracking and gut microbiome. And then that would track your actual brain activity, and then they would have access to all of that stuff.
Yeah. So Calley has this TrueMed company, which, so you can go on TrueMed, you pay him $40 a month for a membership, and then you can order your Peloton for 25 or 30% less.
You order your apps from them
because you can
track your stuff.
You can use they'll send you a doctor's note that says you need a Peloton for fitness, and you can order supplements from them, and blah, blah, blah. And of course, scattered throughout the entire thing is root cause, root cause, root cause, root cause. Okay. So that's the grift, in my opinion. It's like, well, conventional medicine doesn't do anything for a root cause. Do you know why? Because in my opinion, conventional medicine shouldn't. Conventional medicine should fix people that get run over by buses. What was the root cause of getting run over by a bus? I don't know. I was distracted on the TrueMed app and I walked in front of the freaking bus. Now I need an actual doctor and not a Peloton or a cold plunge. Thank you. So,
and Naomi's, in her article, which I really respect, is that she is really focused on how their companies are all about data management and collecting all that data from their apps about you and what they're doing with it.
Right. And her thing is then you have all this health data on people. Like, you think of this, okay? Think of this. What is it? $4.7 trillion a year are spent in the United States on healthcare. And if you're a tech company and you own basically everyone's health data down to how many hours they sleep and how big their turds are, you can market to them. Like, you think your Facebook app, that monitors how long you look at the top heavy blonde in the ad for a, select comfort bed is powerful. Wait till they know every single freaking thing about you.
Yeah, because what a lot of people don't realize is when you sign up, as we all do for those apps, you have to agree to the terms of service. Does anybody read that? No. You agree for them to use your medical data however they want. And so basically it's bypassing HIPAA privacy protections when you sign up for that. So there you go.
So then Calley, the boy, I know it's kind of a gay name, but nothing wrong. I'm not judging being gay. That's the name.
All right, Timothy.
Okay, I know. I'm sorry. I'm Archie Bunker.
You are.
That's okay. So Casey, the girl with the sort of boy's name, actually her real first name is Paula.
And she said she was named after Paul the Apostle. I read that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, probably Paula Abdul.
Maybe.
Anyways. So she has another online data brokering company called Levels. Now, I looked through Levels and it is chock full of Instagram health influencers. Chock full as far as, who their advisors are and all this stuff. And Levels actually looks kind of sort of something that might be useful. Okay. You can using AI, you could take a picture of your food and it'll approximate the macros in it. They're reselling these Dexon, continuous glucose monitors, collecting all that data. It all goes into the app and it's like, see, you ate too much candy, you fat bastard. And, on and on and on. And I could see how Levels at least is somewhat trying to leverage technology in a way that may be helpful for people to get information and change their behavior.
But really, as always, we say, follow the money trail. And if you read further into this new startup and where all the angel investing money came, apparently as this brand new tech company, which she'd never run a tech company before, that this Levels.com founded in 2019 acquired, it was like over 55 million, more than 55 million in venture capital raised. And the main founders would be SpaceX, Josh Clemente, Stan Korkos from DoorDash, David Flinner from Google, and Andrew Connor. Andrew Connor. So basically, her info is really backed by Twitter, SpaceX, and Google. And if you ask people if you were agreeing to sign up to give them your info, most people will go, the hell to the no. But there you go.
Well, plus it gets better. So she has, I think the company's 6 years old. So she founded Levels after after she left residency. So
correct. She started a functional medicine practice.
Right. So she left residency before COVID. She starts a functional medical company, a functional medical company to like give you your blood glucose levels and all this so that you can change your behavior, but doesn't say a gosh darn thing about the pesky masks, the insane shutdown of our society, and the mandatory jabs for children all during COVID. So I'm telling you right
You
there.
know why? Because Andrew Horowitz, one of the backers, is a big guy in the COVID mRNA technology.
Right. So this all smells bad. Then you look at her company now, and my understanding it's worth about $313 million.
Yeah.
$313 million. She has 60,000 subscribers. So she's only been getting 10,000 subscribers per year, but it's worth over 300 million. And Naomi dug into where the subscribers from, and they're disproportionately from the raging Maha Center of Mexico, suggesting bot farms.
I love it.
Like, you can't make this shit up. Seriously.
And they have a valuation of 313 million, and they have what? Start up with 10,000 subscribers a year. How do you get a valuation of?
I don't know.
And they're all from Mexico.
I don't know, but I'm almost at the point where if somebody wants to give me that kind of grift, I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll say whatever. 300 million goes a long ways to finish off the garage content. Let's just be honest.
She was on Shark Tank trying to, which is a show I love, and I watch continuously when Tim's at work.
O'Leary Shredder.
That's what I'm thinking. How do you come up with that valuation? Well, and how much have you sold? And where is all this? Mexico? Oh, interesting. So we're going to have to do a little home shopping network in Spanish to the people.
No, like it's just completely crazy. That said,
Barbara Corcoran and I will be down there in
that said, levels actually make sense. It actually makes some sense. It isn't just a total grift. It may be a grift,
I think,
but at least rationally, you can say, look, if you give people more information, they're more liable to change their life.
Root cause, like how's collecting this data help you get to the root cause?
And then they just pepper root cause through everything. TrueMed, on the other hand, in my opinion, is legalized fraud. Like this, it is exactly the same as we had actually, he's a good friend of mine. One of our paramedics that worked with us when we were in urgent care in Oregon, he asked me, he goes, can you write me a letter because my apartment won't let me have my dog? And I'm like, no, because like you're normal. Like you don't need a freaking.
He just wanted a dog.
So he just went online and there's some PA or whatever that has a company that just writes notes and it's like Joe Blow, whoever needs a note for their dog. And it's an entire business of doctor's notes for dogs in apartment buildings. And I'm like, that's true, man.
To explain to people what that is. It's people that require pets for mental health or therapy or medical device dog or whatever you want to call it.
Well, emotional support. Okay. Isn't every freaking pet in the world an emotional support animal?
Of course.
Why did you get it? Oh, I got it so that it could chew my furniture and shit on my carpet. I mean, like, it's just so completely ridiculous. By definition, if you have a pet animal in your house, it's for emotional support.
Require a lot of emotional support because you've been begging hard for a dog lately.
Well, yeah, probably do, but whatever. So anyways, they're deeply involved in this data mining, whatever, which in and of itself, raises even more suspicions. So then there's Nicole Shanahan kind of pulls the pin and lets the grenade drop. Naomi Wolf pops in there with, because she's very suspicious of anything in Silicon Valley. And I actually really, really respect that. And then enter Robert Malone. So Robert Malone comes in and he's like, okay, kids, pump the freaking brakes. Pull your heads out. If, I don't really he didn't necessarily have an opinion on them, but he's like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Do not blow up Maha over the Surgeon General appointment. And I think that that's wise. I get it. As he says, people in our movement are unbelievably politically naive and they don't understand how, the sausage is made, as they say, as things get done in Washington. And I agree with that. I think that that's true. It doesn't mean that you don't call bullshit out. I think you absolutely have to, especially if it's on your side. But I see the means as a grease fire in your kitchen. They are an absolute grease fire in your kitchen. Do they have the ability to burn your house down? Yes. But they only have the ability to burn your house down if you give them the ability to burn your house down, which would be grabbing the burning pan and throwing it out of your house and tripping and burning your house down. It catches the drapes on. Or spraying water on the grease fire and it gets 10 times bigger and it goes past the fume hood and catches your ceiling on fire and burns your house down. If you calmly wait, shut the gas off, grab a flame retardant blanket, and throw it over the grease fire goes out. So I think Malone is correct in that regard. But it still doesn't change the fact that you have a freaking grease fire in your kitchen. It's gonna turn on the smoke alarms. It's gonna be sooty. There's gonna be a bunch of mess you're gonna have to clean up. But don't burn the house down. And I agree with that. So then we have to get to the Tucker interview. So I listened to it originally, and then I re-listened to half of it again last week, which is about all I could stand, because Tucker was so far up their butts, he should have been billing them for a colonoscopy. He's like, this book, okay, I have not read the book, but the book is about how, we eat crappy food and there's recipes and shit in it, right? He's like, this book I think it's going to change the world. I think it's going to change the world. Really? A book about how eating bad is bad for you? Like, not like there hasn't been 19 billion books about eating bad is bad for you.
I think Weight Watchers even
but this one. And then they wax eloquent about their parents and how their mother passed away from cancer and it changed their mind about what was going on. And it was really a metabolic problem that caused it. And on and on and on. Okay, she had pancreatic cancer, for God's sake. I'm not sure that that's a metabolic disease, but hey, I'm just an idiot country doctor with 33 years experience who reads a lot. What do I know? But it was really gratuitous. So I'm sitting there, I am riding my bike, and I'm listening to this, and I'm like, this is a psyop. This is absolutely a distraction. This podcast with them, going off on all of this, how corrupt the system is, to people that just showed up out of nowhere. Like, again, this isn't Peter McCullough, who put his entire career on the line for the truth. And I'm like, this is, I know what this is. This is the super top heavy blonde at the front of the stage at a David Copperfield concert, where you're staring at her. Meanwhile, he's manipulating something else with light and mirrors. And it's like, it's magic. No, you were just distracted by a smoking hot blonde chick with giant cans. And I think that's what this is. And I think what they're distracting away from is pharma and the jabs. So if we can have a Surgeon General that goes all in smoking guns for food, the food industry will give you that, because they're still going to make money and people are still going to buy crappy food and Fruit Loops and all that, even if they're a little bit more expensive. So they don't lose much. Okay. If you have the entire federal government health agencies going after jabs, that is an existential threat to drug companies. Like, that's not like a small threat. That is an existential threat. If you remove the 1986 Childhood Vaccination Act and they don't have immunity anymore, that is a multi-trillion-dollar problem for them. So they're going to give you Fruit Loops, but they're not going to give you pharmaceutical ads, SSRIs, jabs, all this other crap that's poisoning people.
So for the people that might not be tracking with part of what you're thinking, is basically the whole a big part of the platform that RFK Jr. is running on was basically about, and has stood for, because of the Children's Health Defense, all that, what's happening with kids, vaccines, then the pandemic, the jabs, and in overturning that, looking into it, investigating, correct? That was like, what was it that we heard not long ago about they had the information and they were going to present it? What happened to that, right? Don't you remember that?
Which information?
About the cause. Remember, I thought they said there was that thing a little while back talking about research, and then it's like we know what's going on.
No, he said he's going to give you the cause of autism by October.
Yeah, there you go. So
October.
So now all of a sudden, if you have a surgeon general in there trying to help direct the narrative and change things and looking at Fruit Loops and red dye, is that going to distract from the, like the big platform that he was really focusing on and running on?
Maybe. I have a countervailing argument that I'm going to get to with regards to this.
Just what kind of going the gears going through my head.
But this is the concerns. These are the concerns being voiced in the counter narrative to the Means siblings in the kind of MAHA movement and medical freedom world.
Okay? Now the whole Silicon Valley thing is a whole separate.
That's a whole separate
can of intentions and peoples.
America spends more on healthcare than any other country, yet we rank 48th in life expectancy. We spend trillions, but 200,000 insured people still declare medical bankruptcy every year. Clearly, the system is broken. But what if there was a way to take back control, to break free from inflated costs and red tape? That's exactly why Crowd Health was created, a smarter, more transparent way to pay for healthcare. No middleman, no bureaucracy. Just a community of people helping each other when it matters most. Join the revolution. Go to joincrowdhealth.com and use promo code BSFREE for a discount on your first 3 months. Because your health should be in your hands, not theirs. But here's okay. So then enter Uncle Jack. Okay, so Jack Kruse, who right now has gone to number 1 on my list of people I want to interview because he is fan-freaking-tastic. If
he's listening, maybe he'll come
If you have not listened to Jack Kruse talk about light and quantum biology, you are missing out. Like it is.
Put on your thinking caps while you're listening.
Yeah, because it is not for the faint of heart to listen to. So he comes out. Okay, so this gets really crazy. May doesn't even know this because I've gone way down on this rabbit hole. So he comes out on Danny Jones' podcast, which was I think December or something of last year. And him and Mary Talley Bowden from Texas, who's getting lambasted for treating people for long COVID, going against the jabs, et cetera, is being investigated by Texas Medical Board, blah, blah, blah. She's a total hero. So they go on Danny Jones with Calley Means. And Jack Kruse, who is very bombastic and got this neurosurgeon, arrogant side to him, which I, honest to God, love. Who wants to have a neurosurgeon cutting on your brain that isn't confident, for God's sake? Not me. So, see, he just comes out and he just blasts Calley. He's like, why are you guys going after food and exercise and all this? That doesn't matter. He's like, it's going to take 50 years to die from red dye number whatever in Fruit Loops. Meanwhile, we're poisoning people, especially children, with mandatory COVID jabs. He's like, and it's like, it's kind of like somebody comes into the office and they have a gigantic fungating brain tumor coming out of their head and a hangnail. And you look at the hangnail and you put a ball cap over their head so you don't have to look at their gigantic brain tumor. So that's kind of where he's coming from. It's like, if you're not 100% going after the single thing that you can change instantly that is doing the most harm, which is his opinion, and I largely agree, then you're just a grifter, is kind of his take. Okay. But it gets better. It gets way better. So Jack just went on another podcast that was released this last week, the TFTC podcast, which is a Bitcoin podcast, because Jack's big into decentralized everything, decentralized medicine, decentralized money. So obviously Bitcoin. And Jack spent a significant amount of money and got high-level private investigators to go down and investigate the Means. And according to Jack and his investigation,
do tell,
he found out, and this gets super interesting as we go through this, he found out that RFK Jr. had offered Dr. Kelly Victory the Surgeon General spot. And apparently she didn't want it, which I don't blame her.
We should ask her.
Or that got pulled, or I can't remember exactly what, but they offered it to Calley Victory, and then all of a sudden it's Casey. So it got switched. There was a switcheroo. I'm not sure if Calley said no or what, but Calley would have been perfect,
Right.
absolutely perfect. Tons of experience, in her early 60s, a fitness and activity guru, a personal defense guru, a mass casualty expert as far as how do you set up ER systems, an ER expert, a medical freedom warrior. I mean, Calley Victory would have been absolutely perfect for the job. But no, it goes to somebody that couldn't even finish residency. Why could she not finish residency? Well, according to Uncle Jack, it's because she had mental health problems and she became so anxious she couldn't do her duties. And Jack has this up on, again, I'm quoting Jack Kruse, very good intel from inside Oregon Health Science University that she went to the program director and said, "This isn't for me. I can't do it." And that
Well,
was that.
actually, was Googling some info on her and it popped up that said she cited stress and personal reasons for quitting.
Well, and then there was this whole stress thing. She goes out and talks to the trees and did a bunch of kind of weird, kind of pagan bullshit to try to center herself.
That's Oregon.
It's just like, well, Stanford and Oregon, for God's sake. So yeah. So anyways, so there's that. Okay. So Jack's like, if you're not going to go 100% for the jabs, I'm going to do everything I can to destroy you. Like his goal is not to add nuance to the conversation. It is to start lobbing nukes. Okay. Because that's Jack. All right. Well, we just mentioned Dr. Victory. Well, it gets even more interesting with regards to that. So here you go. So then last week, Politico authors this. It's called Wellness CEO Files Ethics Complaint Against Top RFK Jr. Advisor. So, an internal battle has emerged inside the Make America Healthy Again movement, with the CEO of a supplements company and a top advisor to Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. leveling accusations against each other that include making threats of retribution, conflicts of interest, and leaking false information. Okay, so Peter Gillooly, CEO of the Wellness Company. Well, who's on the board of directors, the medical board for the Wellness Company? Well, Dr. Peter McCullough, been on the show 3 or 4 times. Dr. Harvey Risch, been on our show 4 times. Dr. Calley Victory, been on our show a couple of times. Paul Alexander, been on a couple of times. All these people we know, and for the most part trust, are involved with the Wellness Company. Now, I've heard some good. I've heard some very bad about the Wellness Company. I don't have enough personal information to give you an answer other than there's all these people I do trust that are embroiled with them. I don't know if that's good. I don't know if that's bad. That's just the way it is. So what happened is Gillooly sent an ethics complaint about TrueMed, which makes sense to me because TrueMed, as I said, I think is legal fraud. So then get this. So then somehow Politico apparently got a recorded conversation of Calley Means of TrueMed talking to, I think, to Gil Gooley. And here's the quote. If one more thing happens, I'm going to Jay Bhattacharya and Bobby and tell them that you and your cadre of Peter McCullough and Calley Victory are spreading lies and trying to fuck with him and hurt his administration, Means said, naming 2 members of the company's medical board in a recording of a Saturday morning call between him and Gillooly obtained by Politico. So if you keep effing with my doctor note writing company, I'm going to Daddy Jay Bhattacharya and Bobby and telling on you. Okay, if that isn't the biggest beta male bitch session I've ever heard, that alone should get that piece of you-know-what fired. It's like, no, you do not use the heft of the federal government to protect your effed up business model. I'm sorry, that just is beyond the pale.
Correct. Yeah,
Assuming that's
really
correct, and it has to be, because Politico would be sued out of existence if it wasn't.
Oh, no kidding.
Okay, that is like, he's trying to, because he's big buds with Bobby now. Apparently, he's trying to bitch slap TWC, and he's naming Peter and Kelly in this.
No kidding, right?
Like, he is opening him, like, honest to God.
Talk about
I think I would sue him if I was Peter.
Kidding. Shit.
It's if for no other reason, then he's just a beta male, which makes me throw up in my mouth, and he's got a girl's name. That alone should be enough to sue him. I know. That's probably Archie Bunker side, but that's just how I feel. I can't help it.
Oh, so he's saying, I'm kind of looking at this, that then in the next paragraph he's saying,
I'm going to sue the shit out of you and escalate this.
They're spreading false information about his company, because they were calling out the fact that they were he was letting people use pre-tax dollars to write these letters for people to get them.
No, I look. The second I looked at TrueMed's website, it took me a whopping maybe minute and a half to go, this is a total grift.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you have any company that requires a doctor's note and you need a membership to get a doctor's note to get whatever it is that you want, how is this different? How is this different than the guy in Oregon 15 years ago that wrote 95% of all the medical marijuana cards before recreational weed was legal? I would contend the weed guy at least saw the frickin' patients face to face. He at least had a relationship with them. You're just paying $44 a month or whatever it is to get a medical note so you can get your cold plunge and your Peloton. I'm sorry, that should be illegal. But now he's in the government influencing stuff. One law that says anything to do with fitness is covered on HHS money, and his business evaporates like a chunk of dry ice on the pavement in Florida in August. Gone. So that is the biggest freaking conflict of interest you can get. Okay? Like, it's just absolutely.
But it's not him. That's going to be Surgeon General.
I don't know. Like I said, every time I think of the mean siblings, I just think of those two evil twins from The Shining. The doors open in the elevator and you're like, holy shit, they're scary.
I think of the ones from Vacation. I'm sorry.
So at any rate, so what is our take? I'll give you.
I think it's kind of obvious.
Yeah. My take is this. I think 100% of this, but I'm going to have a countervailing argument because I think there may be 3D chess going on. I think it's a psyop and a distraction. 100%. I think it's just to distract away from drugs and give pharma some leverage. At the very least, it is a gigantic grift.
Okay, so why would Bobby let that happen?
That is for people far above my pay grade and experience and knowledge to know.
Maybe you have to do some texting.
I think there's an entirely righteous reason for him to let it happen. And I'm going to get to that. Entirely righteous. At minimum, it is a giant grift because they have these companies, and as soon as their name becomes popular now, and they have all of this funding, now they can get real customers storming to them. Like I was thinking of this. Okay, if they named me for Surgeon General, okay, which actually makes 100 million times more sense than Casey means. I've seen patients for 33 years. I've had all sorts of leadership positions. I've worked inside the insurance side. I've worked in the hospital side. Seriously, I'm way more fit for this job.
Yes.
Okay.
1,000%.
Okay.
More qualified.
But just think, okay, they name me and they investigate me and May and they go, wow, this guy, has 3 drinks on his show and swears and does this and thinks jabs or whatever. Okay. And then I don't get confirmed because I'm too much of a blowhard and an a-hole. what would happen to my podcast? It would be
Toast.
massive without even being the Surgeon General. That kind of scrutiny, I would be like, yes, give me, I will pull my pants down in Congress and you can do a colonoscopy in front of everybody. I don't care. That kind of exposure, if you have a media business or a website business that you're selling memberships to, it would explode your
I'm
business.
thinking maybe they'd shut us down.
I don't know. It would blow up. We would have, we would be.
You're right. We're too small peanuts for them to worry.
No,
about
it would
shutting
be,
down.
it would be crazy. It would be absolutely crazy. Secondly, if you have not seen, if you're going to be America's top doctor, okay, and you're going to try to evangelize, not the choir, but the people in the street, you're going to try to bring into your church of Maha people that have not thought about this, are eating the Cheetos, are happy to be fat and happy, haven't thought 16 seconds of vaccines other than my doctor told me to get a shingle shot, a COVID shot, an RSV, blah, 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 blah. If you're going to try to evangelize those people, and especially evangelize their doctors, which is way more important, you're not going to do it with a 37-year-old that never practiced medicine and didn't finish a residency. I'm sorry, that's not going to happen, because that's not how you convince those people. If you want to convince them, you get somebody like Kelly Victory, who's been in the trenches and understands, Harvey Risch, who's been an epidemiologist inside academia. Like I said, somebody like me, who was absolutely towing the line for allopathic medicine, and then is like, wow, I think most of it is bullshit. And I've been saying that for at least 20 years. So it just, okay, so I think she's just unfit. Let's get to the last point. What do you do about it? First of all, does the Surgeon General's job actually matter? And I read an excellent article where it's based on a false premise. It's based on the premise that somehow for health, we need the government to tell us what's healthy and not. Like somehow to know that smoking's bad, we need to have the little labels on there that says the Surgeon General says smoking makes you an idiot or whatever. And I think that there's a place for that, especially in emerging years previous where we really did not have the dissemination of information like we do now, where it's like you have this authority that says, smoking's bad, whatever. But these are the same assholes that brought us the food pyramid, which is entirely upside down.
Yes.
So maybe we just don't need any of the Surgeon General. Plus, they have some power.
Like a talking figurehead.
Yeah, but it's a figurehead. Okay, this is not the head of the NIH, the head of the FDA, the head of the CDC, or the head of HHS, all of which I think they've picked great people for, okay? Jack Kruse would disagree, but I think that that's the case. So there's that. Could this be a double psyop? And I think that there's a very, 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 very good chance that there is. The fact that Nicole Shanahan came out so vigorously doubting Bobby, that I think is what they call in the spy world a limited hangout. She's dangling this thing to get everybody to look at Calley. Meanwhile, Bobby's doing all this other autism and vaccine stuff. And so just like assuming the means are operatives for big tech and big pharma, where big pharma will give away the food part, they don't want to give the vaccine or the medication part away. This could also be, we need to placate this other side by having somebody in there that kind of looks okay to Maha, but at the same time is not right in the grill of pharma. So I have that might be the case. And
maybe, good take on that.
So
you read enough spy novels and watched enough House of Cards to kind of deduce that.
So Bobby may be playing, the Trumpian 3 or 4D chess here, especially with like you think Nicole didn't call him up and say what the F word's going on here before she wrote that. Like it just, there's a part of it it's so egregiously out there. She's so pissed off that it just sounds, it sounds inorganic. Like it's too much. It's the smoke and then the girl pops out of the,
Yes.
the mirrored
The
box.
little box.
Yeah. So that's one thing. I think it's it's obvious who they are. They're a fire. Okay. They are a grease fire in your kitchen. Don't pour water on the grease fire. Don't go pissing on the grease fire. Deal with the grease fire. You're going to have grease fires every once in a while. And it gets me to this point of like where Republicans especially fall down, which is this this demand for ideological purity. It's like everyone has to be ideologically pure or else we have to kick them out of the church. Okay? I mean, it's like you're in a Southern Baptist church in the 1940s, and if you drink it all, you're somebody catches you, you're getting excommunicated. Like it's super duper unhealthy. And the problem is, and I've seen this in pro-life, and I'm still a medical director of a pro-life clinic, which is people don't understand that the difference between what you believe morally, what you believe religiously, what you believe at the core of your being is vastly different than how you get things done politically. Okay, so demanding, we would do this where it's like, I can't vote for anybody unless they're 100% in lockstep with life begins at a conception. And if you kill a baby, that's 2 seconds after conception, you're killing a human. Okay, I have no problem with that argument. I think that, that's true. But politically, you can't, that is untenable. Yes. It doesn't happen. So then what ends up happening in the pro-life movement? Okay, I believe life starts at conception. I have no problem with that. I totally agree with that. But if you voted for somebody that says, okay, we're going to have abortion and we're going to stop it at 20 weeks, do you know what happens? What happens is you get tons of ultrasounds now. You get tons of young mothers looking and saying, oh my God, that's actually a baby at 10 weeks. So you're going to have way, 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 way less abortions, which is kind of the goal, but you're going to have to compromise. Well, I can't compromise on principles that are whatever. I get that. But that's the difference between politics and what you really believe deep down in your heart. And like ideological purity in politics does not work. That's like trying to have diaper purity at a daycare center with kids 3 and under. Because politically, what you have is a whole bunch of wailing babies full of shit. That's politics. And you have to be willing to accept that that's the case.
That's perfect.
So if Calley means, and Casey means, who I believe are obvious grifters, are going to be in the camp and we have to deal with them, then just recognize who they are and deal with them. They're the kid that always sticks their hand down their dirty diaper and ends up with shit on their nose. Okay. Am I going to close the entire daycare center down because of 2 dumbass kids? No. I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to wipe their nose off. I'm going to wipe their hands off. I'm going to change their diaper. That I think is critically important. And it brings me back to Jesus and his disciples. And this one just blows my mind. Okay, most people think of Jesus and these 12 guys. That's not how it was. It was Jesus and several hundred and at times several thousands. And realistically, it was Jesus and probably several tens of thousands that followed him around. Think of like ancient Palestine deadheads.
Exactly.
Because Jesus had hundreds to thousands to tens of thousands of disciples before he was crucified. Saying that, he had 12 insiders. And of the 12 insiders, one was a devil. So did Jesus, the Son of God, know, like way at the beginning of his ministry, that Judas was a devil? Of course he did. As he said to the Pharisees, I saw Satan fall from heaven. He was there at the creation of the universe. So yeah, he knew Judas was the devil and one of the insiders. What did he do about it? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Because why burn down his ministry? Why cause so division within the other 12 insiders until it was time?
Because it took care of itself.
Because it took care of itself. Exactly. So I think everyone needs to, take Robert Malone's advice to a certain degree and just take a gigantic chill pill. And remember, here's the very, very, very end of the argument. Maha is not going to make you healthy. The HHS secretary is not going to make you healthy. Your doctor is not going to make you healthy. The only person that's going to make you healthy is you. Maha starts with you. If you have shitty habits and bad behaviors, there's no legislation in the world that's going to change that.
Yeah, I mean, I would call out a little argument on that. It sounds nice and it's true, but there's some things when they're mandates that are shoved down us as we've lived through that some laws can change.
But again, that's the difference between a mandated poison
Right.
and food. And again, that's the canard. They'll give you food because they know people are going to buy Cheetos. They could put plutonium in Cheetos and people would still buy them. And again, right? That's that's why people that question vaccines or anti-vaxxers are so freaked out, because they're like, look, we're mandating this to children. Maybe we should change that. Now, in fairness to Casey, she has come out and tweeted against the hepatitis V vaccine. Like she has been at least vaccine agnostic. But again, how much of this is just being part of the, now I'm in Maha, so I have to do the Maha thing.
Right.
And, but what's also interesting, which I want to do one more thing, which is kind of a backup, but we never got to, which is unbelievable, is in the Tucker interview, they just salivate over how great their family was. And, my dad and, my mom, they taught us just to question and never to shoot for the brass ring and never go to the brass ring. You went to Stanford and Harvard. I'm thinking that that's bullshit, especially when you read about Grady Means. Well, who is Grady Means? Well, Grady Means is the Means siblings' father. Well, where did he come from? Well, this is legit from his author's bio as an author. This is not from Wikipedia. Retired American business executive and government official who now writes and develops new businesses, blah, blah, blah. Born in California in 1946, childhood in Oklahoma and Kansas before returning to Southern California. He went to Stanford, worked as a systems engineer for Northrop. You can't make it up. Okay. On the F-747 fuselage, autonomous target drones, and the Apollo spacecraft recovery programs. He then got into Washington and was White House assistant to Vice President Nelson Rockefeller. Does that last name mean anything to anyone in medicine? And led the Food and Nutrition Task Force to reform the food stamp program, served as White House oversight to the National Health Insurance Experiment, in other words, socialized medicine, chaired working groups on environmental protection and civil rights, and helped draft the bicentennial State of the Union message in 1976. On and on and on. And then it goes, so then he was... got into different businesses, was into Coopers and Lybrand, investment in accounting companies, all sorts of stuff. He wrote a book, Meta Capitalism, the highest selling business to business, all sorts. So he's a big business. He's an old school Republican. So he is a deep state guy. And then he's in this group called the Knights of Malta. Okay. Which again, you cannot make this up. Knights of Malta. The Knights of Malta is like an 1100-year-old quasi-secret society that actually has like a seat at the United Nations and stuff. So it's like, you read it and they try to make it sound like the Knights of Malta or, the Lions Club.
I like the Knights of Columbus
or the
handing out Christmas gifts.
But I think there's more to it. And to add even more insult to injury when it comes to the big government stuff, Calley Means is a member of the Council for Foreign Relations, which is damn near the blueprint for world government. So how did the Means siblings blow up out of nowhere? I think it's obvious. It's their unbelievably mega super connected dad. Mm-hmm. They grew up in Washington, D.C., a couple doors down from Tucker Carlson, for God's sake. This is like, it's so, if you, all you have to do is a little bit. I mean, I don't know, I dug through this for what, 2 or 3 hours, 4 hours this week. And it's like, it's not hard to find.
Well, very good. Very good synopsis of the whole thing, putting that together. And some of that was very surprising and enlightening.
Yeah, it's the Knights of Malta. I'm like, what in the world? I mean, it's almost as bad as like that stupid movie, that TV show that Mike Myers made, the Pentaveret, where these 5 guys control the entire world. And I'm like, well, I'm starting to believe that maybe that's the case. But
what's the female version of the Knights? The
Dames.
It to be the Dames of Ibiza.
Yeah, there's the Dames. There is the Knights and the Dames of Malta.
No, I want to be Ibiza.
Yeah, well, Ibiza would be better. So anyways, I think we need to let this play out. I think we need to ask a lot of questions. It's BS for MD. That's our job, is to ask questions and to encourage you to ask questions. But at the same time, don't piss on the grease fire. It just is going to be gross and stinky and unhelpful.
And as usual, when it comes to government stuff, the pot is so thick of interconnectedness, and it's like untangling a ball of yarn, all the connections.
Right.
So,
and I trust Bobby's judgment. I've just known too many people that have known him personally, that there's more going on here than meets the eye.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, I must admit, as much as I don't know and have suspicions of the wellness company being a little bit, I've heard, whatever. I don't know. I'm not going to criticize them because I don't know enough
for selling vitamins and supplements.
Well, yeah. I mean, so there's a fight between 2 supplement companies. I find that kind of hilarious, honestly. Yeah. But at the same time, that was a pretty ballsy shot over the bow, because I think he deserves an ethics complaint. I think I think providing online doctor's notes to get around a loophole in a law for financial benefit for yourself and the patient is legalized fraud. And then to bitch about the complaint and say, I'm going to my government bosses and they're going to smack you. It just says every single thing you need to know about that person's character.
Yeah. So
there you go. That's our take in 1 hour on the Means. I love calling them Means twins, but they're not twins, but they might as well be. And then you get confused. The name still drives me nuts. It's like,
it is difficult.
I don't know which ones. How about Paula and Al? Like, that would be so much easier.
It's like back in our day when there was like Kelly and Leslie, or the even newer, like, what is it? It's Brooke and Taylor. Could be either.
Yeah.
There you go.
Anyways, so on that note.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you found it fascinating and enlightening, send us a little note, share it with someone else. And as always, stay BS free.